All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Commission on Police Practices monthly open meeting. I'll go ahead and call the September 27th, 2022 meeting of the City of San Diego's Commission on Police Practices to order. First up is roll call. And over to Charmaine Mosley.
I forgot to press the space bar. Chair Hilpert.
I'm here.
Commissioner Case.
Here.
Commissioner Dent.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Harrington.
Here.
Commissioner Smith. I don't see her yet. Commissioner Clark.
This is cool. Here.
Commissioner Shea.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Vaughn.
Present.
Commissioner Dabba Griffin.
I'm here.
And Commissioner Spruce is excused and Commissioner Pink is not here yet. What do we have from Internal Affairs and Sdpd?
Looks like you have myself, Lieutenant Sane. I think Chief McGrath was planning to log on too.
Okay, thank you. And we have also our outside counsel, Dwayne Bennett, and that completes roll call.
All right, thank you. Next up is a discussion action item. Every month we have to renew the teleconference public meeting. So the motion we have on the table is the Commission on Police Practices will adopt this resolution authorizing and ratifying the use of teleconferencing for all meetings, including the meeting of its ad hoc or standing committees in accordance with Government Code Section 54953E and all other applicable provisions of the Brown Act for a period of 30 days from the adoption of this resolution or such time that the Commission adopts a subsequent resolution in accordance with Government Code Section 54953E. The interim executive director is directed to return no later than 30 days after the adoption of this resolution with an item for this legislative body's reconsideration of these findings. And with that, we need to put that to a vote. So Charmaine, do you want to do a vote to approve that?
Motion
Yeah, that was the motion.
in a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have Commissioner Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Dabba Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Hi, I just got here, so I won't vote. Or if you want to tell me what you're voting on.
We were voting on the teleconferencing ratification and allowing us to continue to teleconference for 30 days.
Oh, I'll vote yes on that.
Noted, thank you. Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Pink is still not here. Chair Hilpert,
I will vote yes.
motion passes 900.
All right, and then we have a last minute addition that we would like to make to the agenda. So high level, as we sent out an email to all the commissioners, we need to send a budget memo to the city council so they can know what their budget priorities are for the next fiscal year. And with that, unfortunately, we didn't have that request in time for us to put that on the agenda. So I'm going to hand it over to our outside counsel, Dwayne Bennett, to provide us instructions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As the commission knows, the Brown Act requires that items can only be acted upon once they've been agendized 72 hours in advance. There are emergency exceptions and there are special meeting exceptions. However, where an item, where there is the immediate need to take action on an item, and that need arose after the preparation or the posting of the agenda, the commission can add the item to the agenda by in this particular case, because of the composition of the commission, by a unanimous vote. So what would need to happen in order to add the item to the agenda would be a vote to add it, and then the commission could take item or take action on it. The particular item to be added to the agenda, if the commission ratifies or votes to do so, would be entitled, would state, or the title would be authorize the chair, interim executive director to draft and submit to City Council a budget priority memo for the fiscal year 2024 for the commission. So that would be the item that you would be adding to the agenda if you unanimously vote to do so. So at this point in time, a motion would be in order to add the item to the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Second.
So we have a motion by Nancy, a second by Doug. And then what I'm proposing is we'll add that to new business. So we're not going to do it right away, but we'll go to that under our new business section. And then we will also share the proposed memo that we have, and we can discuss it.
Okay, I'll proceed with the vote. Commissioner Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Spruce is excused, Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Shane,
Yes.
Commissioner Delbert Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
yes,
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Pink is not here. Alina, can you let Chief McGrath into the meeting? Also, Chair Halpert,
I will vote yes.
motion passes.
And Chair, just for the record, the enabling legislation or the Brown Act section that allows for you to add this item pursuant to the procedure that you just underwent is Government Code Section 54954.2B, subsection B, subsection 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the vote was 900. Thank you.
All right. And then now we're actually going to go into public comment. I know looks like we have 2 attendees who are here, but I don't believe we received any public comment through our web form. Is that correct?
That is correct. No public
Okay.
comment received.
So we'll give a couple seconds for our 2 attendees. If you'd like to make a public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. And then we can unmute you and allow you to speak. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands getting raised, so we're going to move on. The agenda showed that we would now be going into closed session. We actually canceled that because we did not have any cases ready for us to review. And then because of that, there's also no report out from our closed session. So the next item on there is just the purpose of the Commission on Police Practices. The purpose of the Commission on Police Practices is to provide an independent investigation of officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths and an unbiased evaluation of all complaints against San Diego Police Department and its personnel in a process that will be transparent and accountable to the community. Whoops, hang on one second. There we go. Lost my spot there. There we go. The commission will also evaluate and review Sdpd policies, practices, and training and protocols and represent the community in making recommendations for changes. The mission of the commission is to hold law enforcement accountable to the community and to increase community trust in law enforcement, resulting in increased safety for both the community and law enforcement. All right, and with that, we're going to move on to the approval of our minutes. Are there any edits or revisions from anyone they'd like to make for the meeting minutes of August 23rd, 30th, or September 20th? Okay, not seeing any of those. What I think might make the most sense is we can vote for all 3 at once. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
I was gonna say, I will go ahead and second, but so we'll do Nancy and Doug, and I see Andrea has her hand up. So go ahead with the question.
Yeah, if we vote on all 3 from those 3 dates, not everybody was present for all 3.
You can still vote yes to approve. Typically what we've done in the past is if you haven't been there, you can abstain. But as long as you've reviewed the minutes and you are comfortable approving them, you can still vote to approve.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion by Nancy and a second by Doug to approve the 3 meeting minutes. Charmaine, can you call a vote, please?
Sure. First Vice Chair Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Spruce is excused, Commissioner Harrington,
Yes.
Commissioner Shane,
Yes.
Commissioner David Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
and Commissioner Pink is absent. Chair Hilbert,
I vote yes.
motion passes 900.
All right, and then per the agenda, we have our non-agenda public comment. It's kind of repetitive, but it's only because we didn't do our closed session. So I'll still leave it open for any non-agenda public comment. Those are items for things that are not on our current agenda today. And I'll wait a brief moment to see if the attendees want to raise their hand. Okay, not seeing any hands raised. I'm going to move on to our unfinished business. Basically, this is just the kind of the carryover that we tend to have almost every month. It's just talking about the triaging of the cases, how we're trying to streamline our reports so we can try to get through the cases that we do have, and then the completion of the reports for officer notifications. So just as a reminder, what we did a couple months ago is about a week prior to our closed session meeting, we have to send out a notice to the officers of their cases that are being heard, so they at least are aware of them. I think we've had one officer asked to attend, I believe, but I don't know if there's any questions that anyone has on that. I think really it's kind of the same standard. We're trying to prioritize cases that have sustained findings first, and then cases that are getting close to that 1 year mark that's required by POBAR, the Peace Officers Bill of Rights. And then basically each team is prioritizing their cases based on what they think they can get done, quickest and most efficiently. So I'll give a quick minute if anyone wants to raise their hand. Any questions, comments? Okay, yep, Charmaine, go ahead.
I just wanted to find out how it's working for the teams.
I'll go ahead and speak for Team 6. We're starting to go through those, and again, we try to look at everything that has a sustained finding first. So if there is any potential discipline that an officer would need to face, that those are not running against that 1 year mark. We obviously, like other teams, I think we do have a bit of a backlog, but we're trying to hammer through those as efficiently as possible. Any other team leads want to chime in?
Yeah, Team 4 has identified the cases that we think we can do with the expedited process, but we're still working on the top priority cases right now. So after we get those out of the way, we should be able to go back and knock off quite a few.
Okay, excellent. Any other teams?
Again, Team 3, just agree with what's been said. We prioritize our cases and we are working to get them out as quickly as we can. We're working on some complicated cases. So as soon as we clear those, we will clear as many as we can, as quick as we can, using the expedited review form.
Excellent. Any other team?
Team 1 is doing the same as fast as we can.
Excellent. I think that's it.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the new business. The first item we have, it's a recap and the takeaways from the 2022 annual Naco conference that was held 2 weeks ago in Fort Worth, Texas. Our executive director, interim executive director, myself, first chair, Doug Case, and then second chair, Kevin Harrington, all attended, actually, and also Robin Spruce. The 4 of us all attended. It was my second conference. I know Doug, I think, has been way more than twice, and Charmaine has been numerous times. I think it was Kevin's first and Robin's first. But I'll let you guys chime in if you want to talk a little bit about what you found to be helpful, educational, any wonderful takeaways we have there. Doug, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I think as usual, a lot of the benefits come from the indirect or come from the conversations you have during the breaks and then in the evenings and morning with people from the boards. I think the one session that I liked the most, and I forget the name of the presenters, and one of them, maybe you can help me, Charmaine, is the woman who is with the National Policing Project or something like that. She former police chief at the University of Cincinnati and is a nationally recognized consultant.
Kevin,
Anyway, I can't think of her name.
Kevin also.
That's Robin from the National Police Institute.
I'm sorry, I was having trouble hearing you. But you talked a lot about research that has been done on policing and on oversight. And one of the interesting things was that the research on implicit bias training has shown that it has not been effective in changing officer behavior. And I asked the question of whether or not we should continue doing it if it doesn't change behavior. And the answer was yes, because it creates an awareness and education of the issue. But the current programs that are done with that are in and of themselves not sufficient to change officer behavior.
Sorry, Doug, I want to correct you real quick, because you said yes, that should stop being done.
Oh,
and that's not what she said. Yeah, she said, no, we should still continue to do it because it does raise awareness.
Yeah, I meant, yes, we should continue doing it. And it kind of reminds me of efforts at the university level when I worked at San Diego State of providing educational programs on issues like hazing, alcohol, and sexual assault. Some of the research indicated that the students learned from the programs. In other words, they learned how to define consent, and they learned blood alcohol content and how different things affect the body, and they learned what constitutes hazing and so forth. But simply being aware doesn't necessarily change behavior. But there are some programs that are usually more intensive and more time-consuming that change behavior. And usually for those types of things, one-time programs that don't change behavior. Two programs that she mentioned that are kind of the premium programs, if you will, in the field that have been shown to be effective are the peer intervention program. It's called ABLE, A-B-L-E. It was the one that was started in the city of New Orleans and has been expanded since then. And secondly is the de-escalation training known as ICAT, I-C-A-T. And so I don't know whether or not the Sdpd utilizes either of those two programs, or whether or not the training they have are based on that. But those are some of the programs that have been shown to be effective. And so I'll leave it at that. To maybe Chief McGrath can answer the question regarding the peer intervention training and the de-escalation training programs the department uses.
Chief,
Doug,
you want to go ahead?
Doug, I don't know. So I can call Wes Morris tonight and have a better answer for you, maybe in about a half hour. I think he's actually out in a meeting today, but I'll ask him if we use those two programs. And what are they again?
It's ABLE, A-B-L-E, and that's the peer intervention.
Okay.
And the de-escalation is ICAT, I-C-A-T. And the name of the organization that the woman is the head of is the National Policing Institute. So you can go to their website and all the good information that's there. So I'll let other people chime in, but that's one of the sessions that I thought was the most valuable.
I think Kevin had, Commissioner Harrington had the same obsession.
Yeah. I
see earlier today.
Can you hear me okay or no?
No, it's kind
You're
of.
a little muffled.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Take the bag off your head.
Is it a little bit better now or no?
A little speak up.
Tiny bit.
Wow.
That makes me sad. I just got these new headphones.
Oh, you can hear now. I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, So I'd sent an email to Charmaine. Basically, I had reached out to her through her email to get the materials that she used at Naco on the projector, and she sent them to me, and I forwarded them to Charmaine. So if you can, Charmaine, if you can send it to all the commissioners so they have that information.
What I'm thinking, I was going to try to do, sorry, Chairman, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to try to pull down as many of the PowerPoint presentations as they had from the app, and I was going to put them on our shared drive. So I have like a public library folder. So I was going to try to put everything up there as much as we can, so we can
That's
put it
fine.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you already have all 3 of those from her, or do you want me to just have Charmaine send them to you and you can do that?
I don't have them, but we can coordinate putting that up
Okay.
there. We'll make sure it's all there together.
All right.
I couldn't figure out how to download them from the app. I could open them, but I didn't see a download button, but maybe you can show me offline.
I'll see what we can try to do. I haven't tried downloading them yet myself.
If you have issues with that, the email I sent Charmaine today is a direct PDF link to one of them, and then the other 2 are one's attached and 2 are links directly to the PDFs on their website. So you can easily put them in a folder if you need to.
So Commissioner Harrington, when I received your email earlier, you took me way back, many years back, when I saw Rob Burden's name in your text message. Rob Burden, actually, he did a lot of research for Albany Law School when that board was created back in the 2000s. And he also works or runs the Finn Institute. And the Finn Institute was named after Lieutenant Finn, who was tragically gunned down in the line of duty back in 2003, 2004. So that text message took me way back to then, to that time period. So yes, I am going to be looking into that research. Rob Gordon is really good. He's a good researcher.
Yeah, I thought for some reason the email was from someone named Robin. Did someone named Rob forward it?
Rob Worden?
Maybe I saw the speaker that Robin Engel is who I got the email from. But I see, CC was Robert Worden. Yeah, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's right. I don't think I met that person.
And I can mention maybe a couple other sessions that I thought were particularly interesting. There was one on free speech rights of the police officers and social media, and talked about how there is a doctrine that the government employees do have free speech rights, but there are limits to that. Some of the lines are not really distinct, but if somebody, and most of it really had to do with social media posting, and so if somebody is posting something in their official status, or if they imply that it's an opinion of the department, in other words, if they're wearing their uniform, if they have a picture of their patrol car in the vehicle, the picture and so forth, that could be considered to be inferring that it represents the department. But then beyond that, if they post something that brings the department into disrepute and injures the ability of the department to maintain community relationships. In other words, if somebody posts something that is blatantly blatantly racist, even though they have free speech rights, and even if it's on their own time, if it injures the ability of the department to effectively do its job, that could be grounds for discipline. And there is a website, and I forget the name of the website, maybe somebody else will recall, where they have done some research and they've posted lots and lots of social media posts by officers in various departments across the country, and a lot of it is really really disturbing. And they also had a session on the closing morning on Thursday that dealt with racist incidents and racism and the racist culture within races and sexist culture within departments. And in that one, they also showed quite a few social media posts.
Was that the white?
Yeah, there were actually 2 on that morning. One was the white supremacy, Then the second one was sexual assault. And I was kind of hoping, the sexual assault one was very interesting, but I was kind of hoping they would get into more nuts and bolts of investigations of sexual assault, because that'll be useful to us, because that'll be part of our new charge once we get implementation ordinance implemented. And then there was a really interesting session on, it was a review of a critical incident, and the incident was with the Los Angeles Police Department. I forget what year it was maybe like 2019 or something, where they detonated a, well, they had a report of illegal fireworks, and they found that somebody had been bringing lots and lots and lots of fireworks from Nevada, where they're legal, and had been storing them and selling them in a home in I forget which section of Los Angeles, but it was one of the Latino neighborhoods. And so they decided to detonate them, and they brought their bomb squad, I don't know what you call it, but the detonator vehicle. And they didn't follow proper protocol in terms of measuring the amount of explosives, and so the vehicle exploded and did quite a bit of damage, and caused some injuries, serious injuries. Anyway, and they talked about how they reviewed that whole thing. In Los Angeles, they have an entire department with lots of personnel. It's the Inspector General's department that does all of the investigations of police misconduct. And they were showing how agencies could also do critical incidents. And I think it's something that maybe in the future that the commission may want to look at, is getting the authority to do reviews of critical incidents, in addition to officer involved shootings and in custody deaths. I think we have enough on our plate right now, but it is something that maybe in the future, especially as we staff up, we may want to consider a proposal. So I'll let other people jump in.
Yeah, on that one, just to add a little bit of context to what Doug was saying, is there was the door for the bomb containment unit that I think they said weighs like 500 or 600 pounds. And because they basically weren't weighing the fireworks, they basically were just kind of picking it up going, that's about 20 pounds. They were just guesstimating. And then they also were failing to include things like the detonator cords as part of the explosive charge. And so I think that, I can't remember exactly what the number was, like you could only have like 39.94 pounds of explosives in there, and they were over 40. And they thought they were at 13 or something like that. So it's just, there were some errors they made, but it basically blew that door, that 600-pound door. I think it blew it like just shy of 2,000 feet up into the air, and it landed in someone's backyard. So fortunately, no one got hurt by that door, but there was a lot of windows were blown off, or blown apart, and there's a lot of property damage and things like that. So that was an interesting piece. The other thing I was going to say, there was a lot of information from LA County. So actually the LA County DA was there and gave a couple of presentations. And then there was also quite a presence from Chicago. So COPA, which is one of, I think, 3 different organizations that oversee the Chicago PD, they all gave a bunch of different presentations. And I thought that was really interesting to kind of hear how they were trying to do certain things and what their oversights are. Compared to our model, I mean, a lot of them are much, much more robust and advanced. I mean, I think the COPA group, they do all their investigations, but they're like 150 employees. And we're going to, and we're going to be 12 when we're fully staffed up. So it's a very different model. But it's interesting. One of the interesting things that I liked about theirs is they have an onboarding process for their employees. And I was thinking that's something that we could possibly bring here to San Diego and actually make it be a public facing kind of presentation. Their onboarding model is 12 weeks. Obviously, we would do something way more scaled back than that. But I think there's a lot of different interesting ways you could try to explain, here's what oversight is, here's what the police department policy and procedures are, and here's how that whole process works. And then kind of maybe make it like what here in San Diego, the DA has a Citizens Academy, the FBI has a Citizens Academy. We could possibly do something similar to that. But they also had a lot of sessions on jails, which to be honest, I didn't go to because we obviously don't have oversight over the jails. But I kind of hopped in a little bit here and there, just kind of heard some of the pieces they were talking about. One of the things that I thought was interesting is a little bit of the issue we're having here in San Diego is drugs in jails. And I know obviously that's a sensitive topic here in San Diego County, just because we've had quite a few jail related deaths because of drugs. I'm trying to think what else we have. There was another one that I actually thought was really interesting. It was about setting communication and performance expectations. And I thought for oversight, and I thought that was a really important thing for us, not only internally to try to figure out how do we create what our key performance indicators are of how we're doing a good job, but also being able to put that information out there to the public so the public can kind of see, you know, here's where our goals are and whether or not we're meeting those goals. And that way we can kind of hold ourselves accountable as well. So that's kind of my high level. I don't want to go too crazy on it, but Charmaine, do you want to touch base on anything as well?
Sure. This is my 15th conference, and they get better and better every year. This one was held in Fort Worth, and Fort Worth's oversight entity has been in place since 2020. There was a panel on changing the landscape and civilian oversight in Texas, and that on that panel was, I guess, the director from Dallas, also Kim Neal from Fort Worth, and someone from Austin, Texas. Dallas, you know, my takeaways was that there was one thing that I think they did that they mentioned that I think that would probably work pretty well, maybe in San Diego. They mentioned releasing body-worn camera video within 72 hours, right? And then they talked about showing the body-worn camera to family before it's released to the public. That might be something that's being done now, but I'm not sure. And I can, Chief McGrath is still here, so maybe we can ask him.
Yes, we offer that to them if they want to see it.
Excellent, good, good. In Dallas, they don't accept anonymous complaints, but that's something that we do at this point. And they're still fighting for access to data.
So the anonymous complaints thing, that's actually, I mean, it's actually all of Texas. Texas has a law that does not allow anonymous complaints. So as Charmaine was saying, the 3 cities that were kind of co-hosting this was Austin, Fort Worth, and Dallas. They were all kind of sharing their experience of what they have to do within how restrictive Texas law is. And that was one of the things that they had.
You know, and speaking of laws, Arizona recently enacted a statewide law that was put in place by their, I won't be partisan, by their conservative legislature, because Phoenix put together and passed an oversight body. And so they passed a law that said that any oversight bodies are required to be comprised of 2/3 law enforcement. And so that basically, right, that was interesting. And there also was a session, I think, that Brandon alluded to, of how do we determine whether or not oversight is effective. How do we measure our success? And it isn't necessarily easy to do because you can't really base it on the number of complaints, because sometimes if you have more complaints, it means that you're making public aware of your existence and people feel comfortable complaining. You might have things like how long it takes to do a investigations. You might have, you know, measures of public trust, public education. And they actually have put together a task force at Naco to try to come up with some, you know, standardized key performance indicators for oversight agencies. So I think it's really important that, you know, we put in lots of resources and money. And the question is it effective, and how do we measure that? And that's something that people are still trying to figure out. So
Brandon, you mentioned that Texas, that they don't take anonymous complaints, but then Fort Worth, they mentioned that they take anonymous complaints.
I thought they were saying Texas law prohibited anonymous complaints, because I thought all of them had to be notarized. Every complaint had to be notarized.
Yes, and I have my notes here for Fort Worth that the complaints must be notarized by the police department. So, And then
It's
they
definitely
do-
a different model than what we have here,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yes, they have a monitor structure in place in Fort Worth, and it's been since 2020, so they're still working on their process of improving and building up their model. They meet with their police chief every 2 weeks. You know, we meet with police chief here we try to do it every 2 months, sometimes quarterly, but that depends on scheduling. And they also said that they have a good relationship with POA, but it's only the beginning. They attend roll call. They're looking forward to having mediation programs. So, mediation programs are blooming up all over nationwide. And then also the Inspector General, I think from Houston, Texas. They mentioned they have no issue getting data, and they also have their own dashboard. So that's what I took away from, the Texas leaders. Trying to look through my notes here.
I believe it's a matter of their like police officer, either Bill of Rights or some other law, right? As to why they require there be a person, like, the logic kind of like you need to be able to cross-examine your your complainant essentially, right? Isn't that what the reason they gave for why they have that in Texas, why you can't do an anonymous complaint? I believe that's what she said. It was a matter of law, right?
Commissioners, can I add something? That notion of anonymous police complaints in California is the real spurious notion. I think I sent to you all, I sent to you all a memorandum in terms of a recent court opinion related to the form and the necessity of how a complaint against a police officer must take place. So that is a very, very questionable scenario here also. Particularly in light of a recent case that took place in Los Angeles and that went back to the Supreme Court requirements. So something to think about.
Yeah, and I think after our outside counsel shared that with us, we shared that with Internal Affairs, and I believe they've updated their form to require a signature. And I believe on our website, we're working with the city's ITs to try to make some changes to our form as well, to try to make sure that we're following that code. The other thing I was gonna say is like looking through my notes for the metrics and outcomes on how we can kind of show that we're being successful. Obviously, not all of these would apply to us, but I think some of them it would, is like obviously the time to review, which we already report out. They actually included things like stories in the media, the number of social media posts, or the engagement from the community. We did start adding social media fairly recently. They also do community engagement by division. And Fort Worth actually does a community perception survey that's available on their website, which I actually looked at. So once we have a little more information, theirs is, to be honest, a little, I think maybe too robust for us, but it's very interesting. But I think part of it is they even said you tend to get people who are either very happy or very unhappy with the service that they're getting from either their oversight agency or their police department. So obviously you're going to get kind of wide ends of the spectrum on that. The other thing that I thought was interesting was the number of community engagements, which obviously that's an easy thing for us to do. But one thing I thought was really interesting that they brought up is that they are actually also reporting the number of invitations they receive from the public, because that obviously shows that the public is asking you to come give a presentation on what your oversight is. That means that they're beginning to trust the process and they want you to become involved, which I thought was an interesting one. So I made a lot of notes from that piece, and obviously we can bring that forward at future meetings. With that, I don't want to spend too much time because I know we have a full agenda. Do any of the commissioners have any questions, or the police department? If you guys do you have any questions on what we saw, heard, experienced?
I think it'll be good once we get more staff to start sending some of our staff, particularly the investigators and policy analysts, et cetera, to Naco. I think they would get a lot out of it.
I have a question.
Yeah. Chief, we'll go with you first, and then let's go to Nancy. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So I just have a question for Doug. So obviously, I mean, we get 0% of law enforcement on our boards coming up. What was their justification for doing almost 3/4 of law enforcement on their review panels?
I don't really know. It was a legislative thing that was pushed through as a way to, it was done by people who did not want civilian oversight of law enforcement. And so it was a way of trying to preventive civilian oversight. Beyond that, I really don't know. It's the politics of the state, and it's kind of an outlier. And I don't know of any other state that's done anything like that. There have been some, and I forget the specifics, but have been a couple of states that have made some legislative changes that have made civilian oversight a little bit more challenging. But I forget specifically what those were.
Okay, yep, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Nancy, you're up.
So I guess in past years, when I've gone, one of the things we've discovered was they really have good food. How is the food in Fort Worth?
Minimal. They actually scaled way back on food. There was virtually nothing there.
Well, yeah, Nancy, you're talking about at the event itself or at the in the city itself?
In the city.
The city.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, there were some different places to eat, especially the barbecue.
The hotel had a Michelin star restaurant down in our lobby.
Okay.
And I ate there once and it was really, really good. But Doug's right. There was a ton of just really, really, it was different too. It wasn't barbecue that I'm used to. It's much different. Some of it was really good. Some of it was just really heavy for me, but they have really, really quality meat though. Oh my God, it's incredible.
So Reverend Gerald Brown, myself, and some of the the ED from, the program manager from Albany Law School, and another staff person, we went out to eat at Papa Duke's, I think, something like that.
Papa Dough.
Yes.
It's dough,
yes.
but it's DEAUX. Yeah.
Yes, it's a seafood restaurant. And I'm in there, got my plate. It looked so scrumptious. I started eating it. And I saw movement on the side of the table. And it was a roach. And I lost it. I was like, Gerald. And he was like, what's wrong? And I was trying to get it because he was blocking me in. So that was my that was my going out experience in Texas and Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a roach.
I was just curious. Thank you. I know, I'm sure it was a wonderful experience, and I'm sorry I wasn't there this time, so.
Yeah, we missed you. Next time.
The food is very spicy, a lot of jalapenos and everything.
Yes, spicy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I don't see any other hands up, so I think we can move on to the next item, which was the addition to the agenda. So that's basically going over the proposed memo that Charmaine has drafted for the budget. Alina, were you going to share that, or do you want me to share that?
Brandon, can you pull it up?
I think I have it up. Hang on one second. Okay, there we go. So can everyone see that properly? I think. So and Charmaine, you can kind of chime in on this, but we got notice earlier this week, like I guess literally yesterday, that we needed to do a budget memo to send to the city council so they kind of know what our budget priorities are, or so they can say what their budget priorities are. And unfortunately, like I said, we didn't have advance notice of that when we were pulling the agenda together. So Charmaine really kind of threw this together, today. So I can go over this, or Charmaine, I'll let you go over this really quickly. And then if we have any edits or revisions from the commission, but the motion we were going to have was to basically allow either Charmaine or myself to draft this memo and forward it to the city council. So Charmaine, do you want to?
Oh, yes, it's for fiscal year 2024. We're just going to be requesting one full-time employee investigator position, and that's the program coordinator position. That's an exempt position, as well as the one full-time mediation coordinator position. That's our only request at this time. Hopefully they would consider it and include it in their budget priorities. But that's all we have for now.
The other thing that we are still trying to get back from real estate assets and airport management dream is information about any rent related issues, because I know rents have gone up. So that's something that we might have to do as a mid-year, but we're also still in negotiation with them on modifying the space. So initially, they were going to give us more offices, and then they kind of scaled that back. So I think it asked for 5. They were going to give us 3. So there might be some construction renovation cost that we have to do, but we can probably try to deal with that at the mid-year revise if that is something that comes to fruition, because we don't have those numbers yet.
Can you,
So-
can you scroll up a little bit?
To the top or the down?
Down, or scroll down. Okay, I just wanted to see if this is the revised.
Yeah, this is the one I got at like 5 o'clock, 5:30.
So both positions, we have discussed it previously for at least 2 years, actually, and it was included in our previous budget. The program coordinator position, that's a position that we actually used up when we bifurcated the position, the deputy executive director position, into 2 positions. We used the community engagement coordinator / program coordinator position. And we used that investigator position to fill that community engagement coordinator position. So it's the one position that we're trying to fill. And then the mediation coordinator position is one that we've been discussing. It's in our org chart as well, but it's fiscal year 2024. So we did plan on putting that back into the budget for requests.
All right, with that, are there any questions? All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So the motion we had was to authorize the chair or interim executive director to draft and submit to the city council a budget priority memo for fiscal year 2024 for the commission.
I'll second it.
So I guess I will make, well, actually I shouldn't make the motion since it's saying I will draft it. So I guess, Kevin, do you want to be
I'll
the one to
motion it.
make the motion? And can we get a
I'll
second?
second.
So we have a motion by Kevin, a second by Nancy. Charmaine, can you call vote, please?
First Vice Chair Case,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes,
Commissioner Spruce is excused, Commissioner Harrington. Well, second
Yes.
Vice Chair Harrington, let me just get it
It's
correct.
okay. I don't care. It's okay.
Commissioner Shea,
Yes.
Commissioner Deborah Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
and Commissioner Pink is absent. Chair Hilbert,
I'll vote yes.
motion passes 900.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to the committee chair reports. First one we have up is the Continuing Education Committee with Nancy. Actually, I can share the agenda real quick. Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up.
We actually have several items that we want to do for continuing education. And the one that I'm most interested in personally is to find out from the DA's office how they do their investigations when they get an officer involved shooting. Next to last on the list. But Charmaine has mostly provided these ideas, and anybody who has other ideas or has a particular interest in any of these, please get in touch with either Charmaine or me.
And then just a reminder, I did reach out to the medical examiner's office to schedule a tour. I know several of us have already done that, but we have several new commissioners who have not had that opportunity. So I think, don't have it right in front of me. I believe it was the 6th, October 6th at noon. We did extend the invitation to CAB, and Gerald Brown, the executive director of CAB, is going to attend. And we also, when we were back at Naco in Texas, we had a conversation with the executive director of CLRB. And so we extended the invitation to them as well. And several of their members, as well as their staff, will be attending. If anyone from our commission would like to attend, it usually takes about an hour. Again, that's, I believe, I should look at my calendar again. I want to say that's the 6th, I believe, what I have on there. So that's one of our continuing education pieces that's coming up. The other one, I did reach out to the sheriff as well about doing a tour of the jail facilities again. So we're in the process of trying to get that coordinated. And then lastly, the last bullet item on there, the mobile crisis response team, that's fairly new. Well, not new, but it's kind of gotten ramped up. They have more budget. I did reach out to them yesterday to see if we can get them to come give a presentation to one of our open session meetings. I asked possibly for next month. So as Nancy said, if anyone has any other ideas for continuing outreach and continuing education, let us know and we can try to get those scheduled up. Any questions about continuing education?
Do you have many people from our commission going to the medical examiners tour?
I believe it was 6.
Okay,
It is 6 of us, yes.
good. Thank you.
Yep. Robin Spruce is our outreach chair. She's not here today. I don't believe we've had any major outreach events. Charmaine, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think that's something that she's just kind of still working with the community on. She's our fairly new chair there. So we're trying to help her get onboarded on that one. If anyone's aware of any outreach events in the community that you want us to try to give a presentation to or anything like that, let us know and we can always try to get that on there. Rules, Doug, I'll let you chime in, but I don't really think there's anything going on with rules since we're obviously still waiting for the implementation ordinance.
That's correct.
And actually, and Andrea, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I had suggested in the past that a presentation be given to the re-entry roundtable because the re-entry roundtable combines a lot of individuals who work with other individuals that are obviously in re-entry.
Do you know who's the one who coordinates that?
Yes, I can give you the information.
It's called the Reentry Roundtable?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so back to rules. I think that was kind of currently on hold, and then obviously the handbook is also on hold. But I'm actually going to skip down a little bit, so Doug can actually chime in, and we'll go to the training committee, transition committee.
Okay. Well, some things are kind of on hold pending the implementation ordinance. As I mentioned, I think last month, we, with the assistance of Dwayne, have drafted our investigation procedures, but some of those are going to be contingent upon items that are in the implementation ordinance. We also need to develop procedures for conducting, or not for conducting, but for reviewing internal investigations, because the commission will have the ability and actually the duty to review and evaluate all department investigations of misconduct. Misconduct to be defined in implementation ordinance, but basically those will be internal investigations. And so we will probably be making recommendations to the permanent commission once they're formed as to what procedures they should consider for that. In terms of staffing, we have 2 executive searches that are ongoing. Both of them have concluded their recruitment period. The first is the community engagement coordinator, and you may need to refresh my memory, Charmaine, in terms of the numbers, but I think there was around 35 applicants for that position. And then for the supervising investigator, and I believe there was in the neighborhood of like 60 to 70. Do you recall the exact number, Brandon or Charmaine?
I wanted to say, I thought it was like 50 something. I thought.
I think it was lower.
Yeah, I thought it was like 50.
Anyway, well, it was still a significant number. So the firm is in the process of doing their initial review of those applications. And then we have a meeting tomorrow with me and Brandon. And is Kevin joining us too, or is it just me and Brandon?
Kevin.
I think it's just the city council meeting.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I have it blocked out. I'll be there.
Okay. And so the officers will be meeting with Council President Shawnee Rivera, and we have 5 items on the agenda. We only have half an hour, so it may be a challenge to get through all 5 in that half hour. The first is the selection process for the permanent commissioners. The draft of the ordinance allows for the commission to propose a process for nominating people, and so we want to go over what we have previously adopted in principle for that process. Second is the selection process for the permanent executive director, and how the commission will be involved in that process, because the appointment again will be made by the city council. The third is to give a status update And Charmaine, it would be helpful if you're able to, prior to tomorrow's meeting, to send a copy of the timeline to the council president's office, because that would be helpful in that discussion, and also letting them know what our status is in terms of how many commissioners that we currently have in our backlog of cases and so forth. We have a couple of issues with the implementation ordinance, again, stressing why we think there's a need for our council to be involved in the meet and confer process, and then also a request that once an implementation ordinance is finalized or is ready to be voted on, the commission and the public as a whole be given more than the 72 hours required by the Brown Act. We understand that, the commission last Monday or Tuesday had a closed session regarding the meet and confer process. We don't know what was discussed at that. We've heard that there will be something regarding the CPP implementation ordinance agendized for October the 3rd, which is Monday. It may be that they will be referring issues out to an impasse, which means that the POA and the city council and the city's labor negotiators were unable to come to an agreement. And if so, there is a process called fact finding, which at a minimum takes a couple of months. And so if there is indeed an impasse, that may delay the implementation ordinance by at least a couple of months. So we'll be keeping an eye out for the city council agenda, which should be posted either tomorrow or Thursday, to see exactly what's on that agenda. And that's really all I have right now.
All right, thanks, Doug. So policy, I have it highlighted here. I had actually put this down before I found out that one of our policy committee members is unable to attend on Monday. So we're now going to propose Thursday, the 5th, I think it is. I made a note. Yep, the 6th. So that'll probably be around like 6 p.m. So I'm going to be working on getting that agenda. These were some of the items that we were going to put on there. The department has revised their First Amendment activities, so what we call the protest policy. That is up on their website, so we'll be sharing that. It marks new to everything that they've made changes to, but they've tried to update that to follow what the various changes in the law have been since they first came out with that. One of the things that I think would be also helpful, that this is something I put down on there, and I'm not going to go over all these because we're going to go over the policy, but I think it'd be helpful for the commission to receive notification of department changes to policies or procedures at the same time or soon after officers are notified. So obviously officers are told when the policies has changed, but right now we don't really find out until we actually look at it or we see that there's something that might be helpful to change that. And then use of force. This is one of the ones that we reported out a while ago. Be completed by an officer. One of the things we realized from a case is that there's currently no timeline. So theoretically, an officer could file a report a year after an event, and that's still technically within policy, and we feel like that's a loophole that needs to be fixed. And then the other thing that I kind of also put on there is the discipline memos. Typically, when we get a discipline memo, it'll explain what the situation was, what happened, and then it'll frequently have a paragraph that'll list any accolades or accomplishments they've had. They've received, commander citations, etc. But it doesn't give us what they've done in the past that were violations. And I think if you have misconduct that's being omitted, I think the kudos essentially should be admitted as well. And then I know the captain just, the chief just spoke about this. One of the things we heard from one of the Texas facilities is that if there's an officer involved shooting, that before the department releases that video to the public, that they give the family an opportunity to review it first. And it sounds like we're already doing that. So we'll probably strike this one off there. And then we will also want to look at the option of using mobile crisis response team and how the department refers out to that rather than themselves going to mobile mental health related issues. So that's really all we have for policy. Again, that's going to be on Thursday, the 6th, not Monday, the 3rd. And we'll be sending out an agenda shortly. Kevin, with recruitment, did you have anything? I don't really think we have anything currently in full swing yet.
No, yeah, obviously we're waiting for city council, but for training, I did pick up this conduct complaint investigations manual by Barbara Addard and Catherine Olson. And this is their second version. And I mean, once I looked through it, I kind of felt like it was, for, you know, a lot of stuff I knew, a few things that were interesting in there, but I think it's definitely a really, really good resource that we should probably give to new commissioners as they join. It really gives them like an in-depth way of looking at everything. And since we don't really have anything right now, I mean, we have the training sessions, you know, but something they can reference that is very, very specific information to look for and kind of shows the process flow of how the complaints would really go and how they're structured.
Charmaine is holding it up as an example, by the way.
Yeah, she has it too. We were talking about it. So it's something that I think would be really, really good. And it's very it's specifically practical and evidence-based policing. So you know, sticking to the facts and the evidence is obviously paramount to completing a case. And that's exactly what this book does. It kind of steers people through a process and multiple different types of complaints. It steers them through how they go down. So it's something that I mean, I think they're like 30, 35 bucks or something, but if I doubt we can copy it, obviously, so we'd have to buy some, but it would be worth it for new recruits. And maybe I can, or Charmaine has one, so I don't know how we go about deciding to do that for sure, but at some point I'd like that to be a thing, at least to be looked at. Otherwise, that's it.
All right, thanks. And then the CAB meeting got canceled on the 19th, so we don't have any update for that. So moving on to the chair's report. As always, and I myself am trying to get my time updated into the volunteer better impact system, but please try to make sure you get your hours in there. I know not many of us are going into IA anymore since we can do a lot of stuff remotely, but if you do want to go into IA, just please make sure that you follow up on your request to be there, because they are staffing for us, so we can actually be there. We are going to be having a meeting with the chief and Chief McGrath, as well as IA. That's coming up on October 5th. So we're working on the agenda now. And then updates for the collaboration information sharing statewide groups. So again, we're participating in both a regional, which is mostly Southern California, and then also a statewide kind of oversight agency group. I think because I was traveling on vacation and then obviously we were gone at Naco, I missed a couple meetings, but those I've pretty much found to be pretty helpful. What they're starting to do, at least for the statewide one, is they'll have someone come in and give a presentation on some topic of interest, and anyone can basically chime in and offer to give a presentation. So I'm told that we will probably all at some time be asked to give some kind of presentation. So maybe someday we're going to have to do one for San Diego, but that's a little bit down the road. The next steps for the countywide MOU between the chiefs and the sheriffs. We are probably going to try to set up a meeting with the sheriff just to kind of go over that. We did have some concerns. I know there was some discussion about that we would probably need to have an MOU directly with them about what the process is, much like we had with Sdpd. So I think that's something we're going to have some initial conversations on. With that, are there any questions for me? All right, Charmaine, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So as of today, we started out with 120 total cases assigned to our teams. This number holds steady as we continue to receive new cases and close out, existing cases. 39 of those cases are category 2 cases. And as we all know, the audits of these category 2 cases have been suspended by the commission back in March due to the backlog of cases. As a result of the suspension of the category 2 audits, the commission now has 81 active cases assigned to its teams. Also, just a reminder for the teams to go ahead and check their folders for any disciplines and shooting review board reports, just to make sure that those are completed as well. For fiscal year 2023 that began on July 1st, the commission reviewed, deliberated on, and closed out a total of 25 category 1 cases, 1 officer involved shooting case, and audited 1 category 2 case. The category 2 cases have a total of 136 allegations and 8 other findings. The commission also evaluated 8 disciplines and 1 shooting review board report and sent a letter to the chief and the mayor regarding that report. So the statistics for the teams are as follows. Team 1 Team 1 has 10 active cases in their queue. 10 are Category 1 cases, 4 of which have 1 or more sustained findings, and the team doesn't have any officer-involved shooting or in-custody death cases. The team also has 7 Category 2 cases on hold. Team 2 is inactive, as well as Team 7. Team 3 has 11 active cases in their queue. Well, let me just go back to Team 1. Team 1, does that sound about correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right, Charmaine. I'm looking at discipline right now because we have quite a few discipline cases that I need to get the discipline reviewed and out. But otherwise, we're actively working on about 4 of those cases. Thank you.
Okay, I see a big difference with Team 1. They had an abundance of cases and now they're down to 10. So that's really, really good. So thank you.
That's what the weekends will do for you. I absolutely recommend that people come in and spend some time on the weekends. Thank you.
Team 3 has 11 active cases in their queue. Of the 11 active cases, 9 are Category 1 cases. 2 of them have sustained findings, and the team has 2 officer-involved shooting cases, 1 of which was released by Sdpd under SB 1421. The team also does not have any in-custody death cases. The team also has 4 Category 2 cases on hold. This spreadsheet was also sent out to the teams, I believe sometime yesterday. Team 3, does that sound about correct, Commissioner Dent?
That sounds correct. And also we have a few of discipline cases, and I found both Andrea and I reviewed them and sent in our findings on those. So
okay,
I'm not sure.
So all of the teammates, if we can probably get cases ready to go out, for notices to go out by at least Monday, we can have a meeting the following week.
Okay.
Okay. Who is coughing? Are you okay? Who is that? Team 4.
Sorry, it's Ernestine. Please forgive me.
Okay, are you okay?
Yes, I was choking on a cookie.
We don't want that.
No, I didn't know I thought I was muted.
I can do that right now. Okay, so Team 4 has 22 active cases in their queue. Of the 22 active cases, 1 is an officer-involved shooting case, and the other 21 cases are Category 1 cases. 5 of the Category 1 cases have 1 or more sustained findings. The team also has 15 Category 2 cases, which are on hold, and no in-custody death cases. First Vice Chair case, does that sound about correct?
That sounds correct. We'd be happy to give some to Team 1 since they.
I see Nancy smiling. So Team 5 has 17 active cases in their queue. All of the 17 cases are Category 1 cases. 4 of the Category 1 cases have 1 or more sustained findings. The team also has 7 Category 2 cases, which are on hold, and no officer-involved shooting cases or in-custody death cases in their folder. Team 5, does that sound about correct? Are any revisions?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Team 6, our last team, has 21 active cases in their queue, all of which are Category 1 cases. 1 of the Category 1 cases have 1 or more sustained findings. The team also has 6 Category 2 cases, which are on hold, and no assigned officer-involved shooting cases or in-custody death cases. Team 6, does that sound about correct?
That's right. Yep.
Excellent, thank you. So that completes the spreadsheet for team assignments. Does anyone have any questions about this item? Concerns, issues? I don't see any hands. Okay. We can go on to item B, and that's planning for the CPP's former member appreciation acknowledgement. So this item is on hold until we hear back from the landlord for the office suite, and also when this item will be docketed. for consideration and approval by council. So we are already into October. So I'm thinking realistically, this will not happen until early next year. Robin, I know I have her on this item and she's out today. So that's it for this item. Any questions or concerns about this item? Chair Hilpert, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the goal of that was to try to do it once we moved into our new offices, and we were hoping to be able to do that in November. But we're still waiting for the city attorney to do the lease agreement, which so we're kind of
Yeah.
looking tight on time. So yeah, it probably will be early next year. Excuse
It
me.
is still under review by the city attorney's office. I reached out to Dream, the real estate team for the city, to find out the status on that. So I'm waiting to hear back for that, as well as the responses from the landlord. Item C is the routing of items for docketing to the city council for future agenda items. So the first item I have is the amended conflict of interest code for CPP, and that's the Form 700 that we are all familiar with by now. Since we bifurcated the deputy executive director position into 2 positions, and we approved the addition of the senior management analyst position and 2 program coordinator positions to the department, I had to go ahead and amend the conflict of interest code by filling out forms and filling out the staff report and submitting it for routing through the docketing system for an upcoming council agenda. So that's coming down the pipeline. I'm waiting for a date for this item to go before council. And then the second item is the exemption of 2 program coordinator positions for the commission. These 2 positions, the commission's investigator positions, were adopted in the fiscal year 2023 budget, and exemption for both positions from the classified service were approved by the Civil Service Commission earlier this month. So now this item is being routed to be docketed for an upcoming council agenda for consideration and approval. So we have 2 administrative items being routed and waiting for placement on an upcoming council agenda. Any questions regarding item C? I don't see any hands. Excellent. So the Naco virtual conference and upcoming webinars, Naco is holding its virtual conference sessions on October 26th, November 2nd, and November 9th. And a webinar on evidence-based policing is scheduled for October 11th at 10 a.m. I'm already signed up for that webinar, as well as the virtual conference. This webinar is featuring a professor of criminology, law, and society at the George Mason University's Center for Evidence-Based Crime Policy. Her name is Dr. Cynthia Loom. This webinar will provide participants with a framework of evidence-based policing, what it is and how it is woven into law enforcement, research, results, contributions, and how it can be applied to police oversight. So this is all good stuff. I'm sure, I think Commissioner Dent signed up as well. I don't know if we have any other commissioners who are interested in attending. If you are, please reach out to Alina and she'll be able to sign you up. Item E, preparation for the release of CPP's fiscal year 2022 statistics to the open data portal. And the data for all the cases closed by the commission in fiscal year 2022 has been inputted into our spreadsheets. So currently I am reviewing the data for accuracy and plan to release the data to the PANDA department, performance analytics department, so they can put it on the open data portal by the end of October. So that's my target date. Item F is the drafting of the CPP's standardized annual report. This is normally due in December of 2022, later on this year. And I am starting that process and starting to compile information and revise what we submitted last year so that we're on time with submitting this annual report, the standardized annual report. And my last item, lastly, commissioners are required to complete trainings for the city as a member of this commission. The ethics training requirement is one. When those requirements are not fulfilled, there is a high chance that commissioners will not be able to continue to serve on the commission. I'm trying to work with those commissioners who have not completed the training, Hilpert and myself. So if you have received several notices from the Ethics Commission, it is not going away. It is a requirement. You're all required to complete that training. So I just wanted to be crossed off. They will continue to reach out to me. So please, let's get that training done as soon as possible. Let me know if you need any help. Hopefully we can be able to assist you with logging in also. And
I'm calling tomorrow, Charmaine.
okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Okay, cross it off the list. Thank you. And then let me just see if our executive assistant has anything to add.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to say no, because I feel like everything that I had on my list to update has been shared and talked about already. But I mean, to briefly kind of go over everything was, about the October 11th webinar, that if you are interested in doing that, please just let me know and I can register you. I can work with Robin regarding registration. I also sent out a poll for the month of October. So if you have to get that email, please let me know your availability, just so it's, I can get a good understanding of if we have quorum. For this upcoming month, something to notate is that 2 of our commissioners are not available, and we need, I believe, 7 commissioners in order to make quorum. So I just wanted to get ahead of that before, each week. And then, in addition to knowing for, the notices and all of that stuff, just to make sure that Robin and I are getting a good grip on having a week in advance before each meeting to make sure that everything's done. Also, the Better Impact System. So I know I sent an email at the beginning of the month. I'm trying to do it every month in the beginning, but if you are having any trouble logging in, just go ahead and let me know and I can try to work with you. And I don't know if you're using the app. If you are, then I can, forward over the instructions for that. Or if you're just preferring to use a website, I can help with that as well.
Can I also add that we're going to have to, for the standardized annual report, we're going to have to do add the number of hours that the commissioners have actually put in. That's going to be included in that standardized annual report. So it's important that you go into that better management system and input your hours, or if you have your hours written down, please send them to us, because it's important that we highlight that in our standardized annual report. I see Commissioner Vaughn's hand up also.
So with the training, am I missing any training? Because I'm good at doing that. I just wondered, you haven't been in touch with me, so maybe I've done everything I'm supposed to.
No, you're not missing training right now. There was just a few.
I was going to say, if we're missing any of our forms or any required training, you would get several emails to let you know. So if you're not receiving anything, you're good.
We would have called you and emailed you and everything else by now. I even showed up at your house.
I can't believe it. Okay, well, you're welcome to come to my house anytime. Thank you.
Alina, do you want to touch on that digital kiosk that we have to put the agendas into now also?
Yes. So I want to say since July, we've been working on I've been trying to work on getting access so that we can post the agendas on the digital kiosk. It's basically on the window of CAB as well. It's just on the other side. I took a look at that earlier as well. So I'm working on gaining access so that we could do that remotely rather than having to go in and post it on the window itself. Right? I'm sorry, I don't know unless you want me to do both as well, we can kind of just to make sure that everyone has access to seeing the agenda in advance.
Yes, we can probably do both for a little bit, just to make sure that no one removes our agendas.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Yeah, so I will work moving forward to see if we can get that access, because it will definitely be helpful on our end to make sure that that's, getting the agendas are getting out there. And in addition to that, I just wanted to let everybody know that our community email list too is growing. So we're getting a lot more subscriptions, you know, for that, and that's nice to know. So I've been sending it out to community members as well.
How many do we have? 300 and
It's closer to like the 400 mark. Yeah, but we're getting 2-3 a day. So
Okay.
it's good to know that we're getting more interest in receiving the agenda.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So that completes our report.
All right, thanks. And then now we're going to hand it on over to Executive Chief McGrath.
Good evening, everybody. Just following the schedule, I did talk to Captain Wes Morris, and 1.04 has been given to him. He's signed off on it, and it's going through the cycle right now. Hopefully, I can track it down tomorrow, and we'll get it signed off and in the books by Friday. What I'll do is, Brandon, I hear you when you're talking about wanting to get the updates on the policies and procedures the same time the officers do. I'll talk to my executive secretary, Katina Soto, and ensure that your name and Charmaine's name is attached to those releases so that you're going to be able to take a look at them and throw them to the CPP commission. So they'll get them at the same time, or at least read them at the same time. Yeah. So I can, that's not a big deal. And then the second item is about the canine. And I think you've had discussions with Captain Dupree this morning. And then I know, Brandon, you and I talked a couple of days ago about the amount or the number of investigations that we've had in the last 5 years. And I think and last month I explained to everybody that I was going to have Captain Dupree do an audit of those cases, and we only found one. And we really don't know what that case is about. We'll have to actually go back and try to find it and pull it. But like I was saying last month, we don't get a lot of complaints from people who are getting bit by dogs. We do a lot of bite reviews with our supervisors, which is in keeping with our standing operating procedure to make sure that the officers are working within those guidelines. And if they do, the sergeant reviews these things and finds that there is a violation of policy, then those cases would be reviewed or referred up to internal affairs for our review. So I don't know what else that you would like us to do. There was a memo that Chief Zimmerman had submitted to you. If you want, I can respond back to you, just basically telling you what our current procedures are in regards to handling complaints of people getting bit by dogs. But like I said last month as well, we handle it the same way we handle all Category 1 complaints. It's use of force, so it'll go to you. So that's the way that's kind of rolled out. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about that?
I think we're good on that. I think it was just we had kind of heard some different answers from different places. So I think we were just trying to formalize it. And as we shared with our IA this morning, we had a meeting. I think it's good for just when, you know, either Charmaine or I or anyone on our commission leaves or anyone on the department side leaves, that there's at least some kind of a record as to what we were doing and why we're doing it. And I think it would just probably make it easier for everybody. And I think that's what we're talking about. But we can also touch base on this when we have the meeting next week as well.
Okay. And then to answer Doug's question earlier about ABLE or ICAC, if we use those programs, in talking to Wes, Wes says that he wasn't familiar with those two programs, but he goes to seminars and to conferences himself, and there's usually somebody that will have some sort of program nowadays about de-escalation and peer intervention. But he says all the programs that people are kind of putting out there all have the 4 tenets of de-escalation. And that's the things that we teach as well, which is ensure your citizen contacts and procedures are legitimate and based on respect. Ensure your officers know their legal limitations prior to engaging the public. Appreciate that to influence a person, you need to understand their perspective, and that's probably the most important part of for us is de-escalation and that. And then also do not presume what makes sense to you makes sense to the person you're talking to. So those, as far as lecture points, pretty much everybody talks about the same things, and that's a very basic conversation we have about, never making those false assumptions, always make sure that we're treating people with respect and you hear the whole story. And then beyond that, in our academy, and I've been on for almost 35 years now, and in my academy, we did de-escalation and peer intervention and DTAC, although we didn't call it that at that time. It was just DTAC, and those are some of the scenarios that we came across. But then also, as you know, we've had the duty to report for a while, and so that's also incorporated in those scenarios. So, as well as those lecture points that we give the recruits, and we also talk about in AOT, there are scenarios that they're subjected to that they are have to pass, and there's certain benchmarks and key points that they have to be able to show that they understand the concepts and that they apply them. So, but we're willing to listen and look at any program that's out there that can make us better. So if there's some information you have on it, Doug, that you can pass along to us, I'll give it to Captain Morris, and he can have his use of force folks evaluate it. And if it makes sense for us to incorporate any of it or to go to those classes, we certainly will.
Okay.
Thanks. That's all I have. Unless anybody has any questions of me.
I think on the ABLE thing, when she was giving the presentation, she was hesitant to explicitly endorse or recommend one program, kind of what you said. Most programs kind of will focus on the core tenets. And I think she even said, if I remember right, it was one of the two, it might've been ABLE. She also said it's a very expensive course to do. So she's like, a lot of agencies can't do it just because of the cost limitations. But are there any questions from the commissioners?
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to say to all of the people from PD that are here, thank you so much for continuing to allow me to work in IA on the weekends. It makes, you can't imagine, makes a huge difference. And the sergeants that are there with me have just been wonderful in answering my questions and being willing to talk about, as we get into it, a kind of a philosophical discussion of the various issues that I've run into. So I'm grateful for that time and appreciate more than I can say that you all continue to allow me to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right, I'm not seeing any other hands up. So the next item up is any commissioner ride-along reports. And if people haven't done any, I actually myself, I'm going to try to get one scheduled. Definitely try to do your ride-alongs. We recommend that you do at least 2 ride-alongs a year. I know COVID obviously changed that a lot, but do we have any ride-along reports? All right, not seeing any hands up. Last item before we adjourn, commissioner announcements or comments. Anyone have anything you want to speak about? Now's your chance to have the mic for 2 minutes. All right, I'm not seeing any. So I think we actually get to adjourn 32 minutes early. Joe would be very, very happy with me. All right, guys, we'll go ahead.
We're all happy, Brandon.
Yeah.